Are you a student, mentor, or parent that loves robotics?
Then you're in the right place.
Up-to-date info on all things robotics. This
is the RoboZone podcast
with your host, Pete Eckman. The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by Kettering University. It's a Kettering-built world.
Hello, and welcome to the 63rd episode of the RoboZone podcast. This podcast is for Tuesday, June 12th. In this episode, we talk about Robo-Con coming up here very fast in the next couple weeks here in Michigan. We talk to the event coordinators for Robo-Con, and we'll talk about some other fundraising events that are happening this summer. So get ready, get set, and let's get to our interview.
The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by AndyMark.com, your robot parts experts.
We're going to go through introductions. John, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm John Urin. I'm the coach of Team 1684, the Chimeras from Lapeer, Michigan.
And I can't remember how many times you've been on this, John, but I think we're like 6 or maybe 8, right? We're getting there.
Yeah, I would say somewhere in between there.
We have to get you a special coat, like the 5-time coat from Saturday Night Live, and half the kids right now don't understand what I'm talking about. So we'll move on. The next person we have on tonight is Tony. Tony, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tony Diodato, and I'm a mentor for 1684 and also a coach for Strike Zone 5460 out of Lapeer.
And finally tonight we have Bernadette. Bernadette, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Stortz. I'm assistant coach and I would say probably operations manager in the background for Team 1684, the Chimeras.
So all of you are busy people. We're all mentors on this podcast, as what is normally done. So John, how did the Chimeras do this year?
So overall at Kettering, we picked up the Creativity Award for our unique arm and intake. Marysville, we actually ended up winning the event with Thunder Chickens in 7218. And then also picking up a Innovation and Control Award. And then state championship, we got an engineering award, which was awesome. And carrier division at Worlds, we were the AC Alliance captain. We got bumped out the first round, but we got Industrial and Design Award, which is our second award ever at the World Championship. So that was awesome. I think what that really speaks towards is this year we probably built the best robot that we've ever built in our team's history, and we're all really happy about it, and the kids worked really hard. So overall, just like a really solid season. The robot worked great, looked great. We wish we could have done better, obviously, but we felt like we definitely set a certain bar for ourselves this year. So
would you say you've had more revisions during this season than you've had in past years?
I don't know. I felt like it was a combination of a lot of weird things. Like this year, our whole team just like last couple of years, we've really been coming together. But this year, it just felt like everybody was like on very similar pages and they knew what they wanted to do. And we also like the last 2 years, we kind of really took the whole thing like Clint and Brandy Bollinger from Team 2337 says is build within your means, right? And this year, we definitely took that really seriously. Similar to last year. And so since we did that, I think that's what really helped us build a robot quickly and effectively.
Very wise words, and anyone that's listening to this, write that down because that's very important.
Yeah, that is the most important thing in this whole robotics thing.
No, just you know what I'm saying. It's one of those things you need to earmark and make sure you do it right. Yep. So, Bernadette, let's follow up a little bit on the Chimeras because you're a mentor on there. So tell me from the business side, how do you guys think you did? Were you happy with the results this year?
Absolutely. I think as each year as I've been helping the organization of the team, that's pretty much what I've done. That's been able to let the more mechanical people, as I take care of what I need to do, they've been able to do more of what they need to do. So I think that's made our team a lot more streamlined and efficient, and I think that shows overall.
And Bernadette, how many seniors did you guys have on the Chimeras this year?
We had three of them gone. One of them, she's been on the team since she was 10, so that's going to be a little bit of a loss there, but yeah, 3 of them.
I think I read a very heartfelt thank you to John on Facebook because me and John are friends on Facebook, and she wrote some very beautiful stuff about her mentor. So that really showed upon you, John, and why all of us mentors do what we do is to make sure we inspire those young individuals. Tony, your drive team and the kids on your team are probably, I'm not kind of my favorites because I goof around with them a lot. I mean, especially at Michigan State Championships this year, we were both on the same field. And let's hear about what Strike Zone did this year.
Yeah, this was the fourth year for Strike Zone, and the two of the original members, student members, are now really the coaches. I just sort of take that title sort of, as an honorary title. I was actually FTA this year and spent more time worrying about every other team on the field than my kind of build the team year by year. My gosh, they just did fantastic. I was a little surprised when they told me, we want to do Milford this year. And I said, oh, that's great. That's challenging. And you want to run with the big dogs. Hey, I respect that. They said, and we want to do Troy. Okay. Sure. Well, we want to defend our win. We won last year. We want to, defend that too. I said, well, go for it, man. This should be great. And they did unbelievably well at both of those events. They were captains or made it up into the top 8 on both at both events. And I think we were second. And we were actually with the Engine Nerds this time, going against Hot, as opposed to being against the Engine Nerds last year when we won. So it was kind of a fun event all around, and the season spectacular all the way to Worlds. We wanted to be at Worlds this year in Detroit, and they made their goal.
Well, and you guys don't forget States, because you guys did very well at States, right?
That was again, I'll apologize. I was helping out with FTA duties there as well, and again, I'd run over to the field when I knew they were up, and I'd check them out. But they just continued to be very consistent. This robot this year was probably the most consistent performing robot we had ever made.
And then, how many seniors did you have on the team this year, Tony?
Yeah, this was the final crew that were freshmen when we started. So they've graduated. And I think we had 4, actually 5 of them. So yeah, we got a little vacuum there, and our underclassmen are already grabbing the controls and fighting for their spot on drive team. So it's kind of fun to watch. They kind of held back while the seniors, who had been there for so long and had such were such leaders, and they just sort of, yes sir, we'll you teach us how to do this, and now they're stepping up big time and looking forward to off-season events.
And Tony, on behalf of all the mentors across the state of Michigan, we want to thank you for being an FTA, because we can never have too many of them. You guys have one of the hardest jobs. Thank you for what you've done as an FTA. On top of being a mentor, that's a revolving hat rack, I'll call it, of responsibility.
Well, it was brutal. I got to say that I guess I was they called me the veteran rookie, because I was clearly the oldest person who was an FTA, but it was my first year. And oh my gosh, that is grueling.
It is grueling, and robot hangovers are a real thing. We've talked about them many times on this podcast. Yep. So let's transition into the real reason I have you three on here today. We're going to talk about Robo-Con. Now, if people don't know what Robo-Con is, it is an event that happens in the summer. It's in Lapeer, and we'll let you guys give a perfect description of it. Last year, I was at Robo-Con with RoboZone, and we did some interviewing there and had a lot of fun. So we'll start. Let's start with John. John, tell us a little bit about Robo-Con.
So Robo-Con started out as this STEM activity fair, right? It's supposed to be like a robotic convention, right? So like Comic-Con type thing, but for robots. And so the last couple years, it's just really grown. I think last year we had over 1,000 people attend, and it just keeps getting bigger and better every year. This year is actually the first year we're going to actually host an off-season event. So last couple of years, we've actually had the public come up and actually drive on the FRC field with the FRC robots. This year, we decided we're going to split that up. We're going to have a separate little small practice field almost, where the kids will still be able to drive FRC robots, but we'll actually have a full-blown competition. So we're really excited about that. Both us and 5460 are excited to host that event, right? Make sure it runs. It's just like Kettering kickoff or any of those one-day events. It's just a single one-day thing. I think we still need 7 teams to sign up So if anybody's out there is listening and they want to do an off-season event, then please sign up. But yeah, it's very, I don't want to say it's very similar to like an FRC competition because the music's definitely a little bit quieter, but there's a lot more things to do other than just robots. So.
Oh, we can turn it up a notch. I mean, I'm taking my team there to compete with you guys. So if you're challenging us to turn it up a notch, I'm sure that we can get the young people that have nothing better to do in the summer than to come out to Robo-Con and scream their heads off. We can make it as loud as possible.
Right.
So,
and it sounds like we're actually going to have air conditioning this year. So
yes, that is a huge thing because it was really humid last year and raining.
Yeah, we looked into some possibilities there, so it sounds like everything's on track for that. So if it's not 100% cool, it'll at least cut that humidity and that heat down a little bit. The people who go to Mark and Robo-Con, they understand like what the heat really is when it comes to robots. So
they're two very hot events, and hot meaning you're sweating. So
yeah, not 67.
One of the memories I have from last year's Robo-Con is there was this big tub, this giant tub of ice. This guy put, I can't remember, it was either a radiator with a fan built into it or something of that nature to cool down that room. It was an amazing piece of ingenuity. But it'll be nice to hear that there's a little bit of air conditioning going on.
Yeah, that was Rob Barker. He was one of the mentors. He's actually the mentor. He's the dad of the girl who you were talking about in the Facebook post earlier. He's been involved with our team forever. So, but yeah, him, his daughter, and a couple of my other students built that. So it was basically a makeshift air conditioner, right? He actually works in heat and cooling. He's actually going to be one of the people there that is kind of helping set up that AC and all that. So
nice. So, Tony, I heard a little birdie told me that you're going to be an FTA at this event, correct?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. This is my first event as the primary FTA, and luckily I have so many colleagues and good friends who I've gotten to know as FTAs. We've sort of, that camaraderie that occurs from that battle that you have to go into every weekend. Well, actually, it starts Wednesday, and then you have that, like you said, the hangover on Sunday. It's just grueling. So they've all stepped up and offered to help. So I'll have plenty of backup and some great friends to rely on. But I'm looking forward to it, and it'll just set me up for next year. Don't tell my wife, but
hopefully, well, maybe she does listen to the podcast. We'll give her a reason to at this point. Tony, are there other names that you'd like to thank now that are helping you as far as the FTA portion is concerned?
Well, officially, I think Bernadette has the list of FTAs currently. Like I said, there's a lot of them, but I think Austin Vecchio is he's been around for a while, and he's actually has a lot more experience than me. So I'm really thankful that he's there. Autumn Francis as a CSA or FTAA, and I believe there's a couple more, and I apologize for blanking on their names at the moment.
No, I put you on the spot when I asked the question, so I have to apologize myself. But I'm glad to hear Austin's is involved, because Austin helped out with the programming on my robot this year, so he had a huge effect on my rookie team this past season. So if you're listening, Austin, thank you again for what you did for us. So Bernadette, let's expand a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about Robo-Con. Are there certain activities other than the competition that we're going to experience when we come out there?
Absolutely. And one of the things we wanted to make sure this year is that we geared a little more towards an older kid audience as well. We noticed that's something we were missing. So actually, most of the activities are going to be new. So when you come out there, there's still the driver's license portion where everyone in the public can go to each robotic field, from Lego, FTC to FRC, and then also both VEX, IQ, and EDR. So they get a chance to drive each one of the robots and complete their robot driver's license. So that'll still be there. But we also have a lot of STEM activities and interactive booths. Quite a few new ones. One of them will be you get to control a VEX robot that shoots Nerf guns at targets. So that's one of the neat ones. Hopefully virtual reality, we have that there, and quite a few other new ones I can't think of at the moment.
And what are some of the sponsors, Bernadette, of this year? I think the robot space is one of them that I know of. Are there a couple more that you'd like to announce?
We have Kettering University's back again. McLaren. We have ZF. I am drawing blanks.
Baker.
Baker College is one of them. They're actually also having an interactive booth. Baker's having quite a lot there this time.
Really excited for them.
They're doing some 3D printing and also a whole setup where someone's going to be hacking into their security systems on a computer actively. So that would be kind of neat.
I'll leave my cell phone in the car then.
Right?
That's what I said.
So it sounds like Baker's pretty excited about it. So they've got quite a few things that they're bringing to the table. But the long-standing ones are the View News Group. They've helped out immensely to get us more sponsors. And
I'd like to thank your whole community, the whole group that's putting this together. I know I have 3 of you guys as representatives for Robo-Con here on the podcast, but I know there's a larger group effort to put this together because it's a huge event. Anyone who hasn't attended this event, they need to. They really, really, really need to, not just for the competition phase, but bring kids of all ages, because I saw so many kids that got inspired out of that event last year. It was an amazing event to see. And that was just when you guys were doing practice matches. So just to have a full competition, off-season event is kind of cool too. John, so when we talked a little bit about Robo-Con, you said there's still 7 spots open. How can teams register for the open spots that are still out there?
So they want to go to the website. I always butcher the website, Bernadette. What's the exact website?
Yeah, we have 6 spots left, and they would want to go to mirobocon.com.
Okay. I always say roboconmi.com, but it's mi.
I'm the dyslexic one. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mirobocon.com, and then they will just click on the FRC event tab, and the registration, all the information is right there that they would need.
We'll also put that in the show notes and all the other information outside of the registration pieces on there too, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we actually would need volunteers are what we're looking for at the moment as well. So anyone out there, if you're from a team or the public, the community, whatever, you can sign up to volunteer on the website as well.
Okay. And one more thing I wanted to cover with you guys, and it's not Robo-Con related. Oh, I have a couple more questions if you guys don't mind. I have you on the hook.
Oh, definitely.
Take up a little bit more time. Tell me, John, how your bottle drive went. You guys did a can drive, and we'll start talking about fundraising and that type of thing. In fact, my fundraiser is this coming weekend. We're doing our very first bottle can drive. So I wanted to pick your brain. How did that go?
So it wasn't our best can drive, but it definitely wasn't the worst. Is the best way I could put it. So, and the reason why I say that is due to scheduling things, we actually had another demo set up on Saturdays, and I was personally busy on Saturday. So we went for Sunday to see how that would go. I felt like we got a little bit less traffic than if we would have done a Saturday. Doing it right after the holiday, I think, was a big plus, right? But usually we get like $500-$600. I don't know the exact number. I think it was closer to like 300. If I'm right on that, Bernadette. I don't know if you have the exact number either. I know we had some after the fact cans that we haven't taken back yet. But overall, I think it went really well. We had a couple people stop by. We had one person stop by that was actually from Oxford, and their grandparents owned a tool and die shop, so they wanted to help us out. Not just they didn't have any cans with them, but they just saw us as they drove by. So potentially a sponsor there, which that could be awesome, right? So I would say overall it was pretty good. We had our 3 robots from the last 3 years with us. And then it was also kind of fun just for the students to hang out just another day they're all friends. So it was cool watching them interact and hang out and talk about their summer plans and everything like that as school comes to a close. So
go ahead, Bernadette. Are there and can you expand on that? Is there any if there's a mentor like me that's getting ready to put one of these together, or actually start it up and have it this coming weekend, what are some tips that you would tell that mentor?
So I would say you'd probably want to try to shoot for a Saturday. Usually after a holiday, like we had Memorial Day, is pretty good, like the weekend afterwards. And then we did ours 12 to 5, which I felt like was a pretty good time slot. And then I saw your Facebook post. You said you were setting up in a Walmart parking lot, which is awesome because Bernadette tried really hard to talk to some local stores, and unfortunately we had to reach out to one of our older sponsors who loves supporting us, and so we got to set up in their parking lot, but it wasn't in front of like a typical Walmart or a Kmart. So
Any other tips, Bernadette, that you can give to me so I don't, lose my mind on Saturday?
I think that's great that you got a spot at a good store like that. That to me would have been key to get more of the traffic as people going in. They probably will be more likely to donate their cans to someone standing there than have to walk in. So that's great. The only other thing I would say is make sure you can market it as much as you can to your community out there. We even did a little bit of a boosted post so it reached more people in Lapeer. The people that stopped by just heard about it off Facebook or something like that. And the only thing we had a rainy day. So I think that was a little bit of a hint.
Yep. That was the other thing I should have mentioned. And also a big thank you to Rebecca's, who was the one who hosted us in the parking lot. She had a son on the team a long time ago, and she's supported us in various ways. She did like a little raffle and everything, in addition to hosting us as a can drive. So that was definitely appreciated. When we couldn't get into a different store, she was always there to help us. So.
Now I got two more questions for you, and you guys can go. So my first question is, and it's to all three of you guys individually, is what did you think, now that we're through Power Up, what did you think about it, John? Give me the Clinton Bollinger feel on how you liked or disliked a Power Up.
So I didn't like the game throughout the whole season. I was like back and forth, like a scale. But sorry. So you said Clint Bollinger. I went to a dad joke. So I overall, I don't think I liked the game. I felt like there was too many times where I saw matches where a minute into the game was already over. And that really stinks. And I don't like game, like this whole inspiration and whole system is to me built around like during a match, like you hope your team can, turn around or do this crazy maneuver and get that extra point and just, not saying you have to win by like a hair, but just there's always hope, right? And I felt like this game, sometimes there were matches where a minute 20, it's like, okay, it's over. Like there's no hope at all. You could literally just stop moving. Some robots could just go to the corner and spin, and that's just the way the game was. And so overall, I don't think I liked it. I liked the fact that it was a very unique game piece, in respects that like most of the game pieces we've had other than like 2015, one side or a couple sides of the game piece were different, right? Where like usually you pick up a ball, it's the same shape all the way around. This game piece was very unique. I think that was a cool engineering challenge, but and the hanging was cool. Like I really like that towards the end of it, everyone's like, I don't care, just grab the bar and go. And I thought that was cool watching that kind of chaos happen, especially for us because we figured out how to use our hanger after states. So
I still like your original one.
I did too, but I wish it would have worked better. Overall, like I just. If I were to put in like my top 5 favorite games, it would definitely be number 5, right? So there's been other years that I thought were more exciting or more unique. I've also said a million times, and I'll always say it, I love shooting games. Shooting games make great demo bots. Shooting games make awesome matches to watch. Like, I love shooting games, so.
I think you might get. Well, we'll get to my second question later, but we'll revisit that. Tony, how did you feel about Power Up this year? I mean, you saw it from a mentor and an FTA perspective. I mean, did you like it? Did you dislike it?
Well, I've been told that I'm spoiled because this field was very, I won't say easy to set up, but compared to last year's game, this was a cakewalk. I mean, you could walk in there, have that thing set up. The electronics were very straightforward. Setting up the scale and the switch. My gosh, that was for me a first time FTA. It was a piece of cake to pick up. But as far as the games, I'm a lot older. John is speaking as a true gamesman. He loves the strategy. He and Clinton spend probably a little bit too much time at work talking about it, but that's okay. That's what we're all about at Cypress. But for me, I really look at the robots themselves. I'd like to see the precision and the craftsmanship that go into the robots. And I think this game really allowed some of the teams to really focus on those the arms and the intakes and the hangars as three separate things, and you could just see, and again from my perspective, being on the floor, and again to any mentor out there who's maybe thinking about being an FTA and loves technology and loves automation, go for it. You get to see every single robot up close. You get to talk to the teams. It was, from that point of view, it was just a phenomenal experience just to listen to the passion from not just my teams and the ones that I've been involved with, but every single team at an event. So from that side of it, I just love this game strictly from the robots' point of view of, yes, this was really one that you could see teams put a lot of effort and a lot of craftsmanship into the robots.
And Bernadette, I mean, you probably watched more matches than all of us combined because we're so busy, building or fixing the robot or tearing our hair out, behind the driver's station as drive coaches and that type of thing. So did you enjoy it from the stand perspective? Was it enjoyable to watch?
Actually, I'm not in the stands. I'm the team media photographer.
Oh, well, you're still watching it then.
Yep, always down there with the drive team every match. So from my perspective, I do agree with John a little bit with that, how the game could have been won in the first minute or so. So that I think was one thing also I agree with him on. But it was neat always being down there, same with Tony, is that to see all the robots up close, the passion of the drive teams, that's really, really fun when you're down there on the floor, and the photographer especially. So one thing of being a photographer, it was actually harder to get pictures this year with the way the field was laid out. So I suppose that's one negative for me, but that wouldn't pertain to everybody else necessarily for a game. But I wouldn't say, as much as I've been involved in robotics, that it was my favorite game. I think Steamworks has been so far. But
that's mine too, Bernadette. I love Steamworks.
But my son
Stronghold was fun too. So
yeah, I love that. But my son joined in 2015, so those are the only games I know so far. So I do think that the element that we had to figure out how to pick up the cube was definitely a challenge and something neat that our team took to a different perspective than most. So that was interesting for me to see the different, ways somebody could manipulate the cube. But other than that, yep, I thought it was an okay game, but definitely I wouldn't say it was my favorite.
So my last question for you guys, I'm going to start with Tony, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to start with Tony on this question. Tony has a fascination with the moon landing. I remember the first time I met. Yeah, well, one of them. But I remember when I first met Tony at Robo-Con last year, because it was the first time I officially met him. Like we shook hands, and we said, "I'm Pete," and he said, "I'm Tony." He had a very special shirt on, and you are, I'm assuming, very excited about the theme that's coming with our 2019 event, correct? Oh
yeah. This is what's in a lifetime experience coming up here this year. And if I guess you're opening the door for me to go ahead and do my little moon speech, but John has heard it since he was like in 8th grade. So
yeah, a couple.
I rolled out the red carpet actually. So go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. No. From my point of view, being 10 years old and actually watching that whole part of the history of this country, now it's condensed into a chapter. I actually watched it unfold since the day I could actually know I was alive. I mean, literally from 3 years old on. That was on TV. It was in the papers. There was obviously no internet or anything remotely related to that, but everybody was talking about. The whole country was caught up in it, and it wasn't just a stunt. I mean, it was just maybe the Russians kind of lit a fire under us, but once we started, it was just watching the whole attitude of the country change and try to achieve this one goal together. And, this wasn't one of the best times in American history either, with, the Vietnam War going on and civil rights and all these other things. But yet, we decided to do this thing and we did it. And it was fascinating for me to actually watch that event unfold. And it's like, damn, we actually did that. That was amazing. And it has always been in the back of my mind, the front of my mind, whenever I'm designing, whether it was deciding one day to go out and start my own company. It was like, went to the moon. How hard could running a company be? Well, I know.
Good point.
I now know how hard it is. But or designing a product where you were competing against very, very large companies, multi-million-dollar companies, and here's this little hot dog stand of a couple of engineers deciding, we can take these guys on. But the thing in the back of my mind was always, well, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve it. And so that's sort of, my background. And I always use that when I talk to our teams. I know John was on the team when I started this whole thing of trying to get them to think that way, that you can achieve it if you just put your mind to it. And I know it sounds cliche and it's a lot harder to do than it is to say, but there was contrary to that, there is no official holiday, or even when the date comes along, nobody remembers it. July 20th. And, I always ask people, what happened on July 20th, 1969? They'll say, they'll have a baseball reference or some other thing. We'll all know what that is in 2019 because it will be the 50th anniversary of that event, and everybody will be on the bandwagon. But I can guarantee you in 2020, it probably won't even be mentioned on the news. So Robo-Con was really kind of started to just say, hey, we're going to plant our flag and we're going to remember that date. Yeah, sure, it's probably going to be the hottest day of the year, but we're going to do what we have to do to just keep that awareness going. And what better way to do that with what is to us and high school students the equivalent of a moonshot. I mean, we've all been through seasons of First Robotics, the build season, and kickoff, it always seems, oh my gosh, how are we ever going to do this? How are we going to play the game? Maybe we'll get one cube in Auton, and then by the end of the season, you're doing 4 cube Auton and you're doing victory spins. It's just to see that unfurl year after year. It's just, I just laugh all the time, every time I see that. So, my enjoyment in seeing that First Robotics sort of bring that out. This was our one way of tying those two events together.
Think about this. I think it's going to be a very unique kickoff. I think it's going to be a little more amped up. And I think you're getting something to there, Tony. And thank you, because I think a lot of kids don't understand how big of an accomplishment that was for our country, and something they really need to go back and look at. And hopefully they have enough time to do that now before the kickoff, so they really can appreciate the kickoff when we do it and savor that through the season. But I have an additional question, Tony, to that, or an expansion, is what do you think the Deep Space game is going to be?
I will answer it this way. It will be something none of us ever thought it would be. Every year we struggle with this. And I just know that they will, the game design committee is, I'm sure, have put so much thought into this and know that this is sort of that once in a lifetime experience. So I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal, but I really have no clue. I don't know how they're going to pull this off and do it in a way that's going to be entertaining. And as John said, it's going to be require skill and strategy and be entertaining to the crowd. So I'm looking forward to it already.
Well, I can't wait to see your costume that you come up with, Tony. If you're already wearing T-shirts about the moonshot from 50, 60 years ago, I can't imagine wait to see. And you're gonna have to step up from Batman standards. And if no one knows who I'm talking about, we have an FTA here in Michigan that goes by Batman. He can get pretty elaborate. So let's see how you can step up your game, Tony.
Yeah,
this is your shot.
Something.
This is
right.
This is your one and only shot. So we're gonna issue that challenge now. So, John, what do you think Deep Space is going to be? What are you and Clinton talking about at work that you guys think that this game's going to be coming here when we announce it in January?
We don't talk too much about that up until like the first week or two, and then we start like heavy speculating. It was kind of like the podcast this last year when I said, "Oh, it's gonna be a game where there's gonna be these blocks, and you got to pick up the blocks, and they're gonna be these foam cubes." I was close, but I definitely wasn't right. Right? It was a milk crate, and it definitely was not a cube. It was called a power cube, but it wasn't fully a cube. I don't know. I'm hoping it's a shooting game. I'll always say that, right? I'll be a broken record on that. But like, I'm not a fan of the themes by any means, and I've said that multiple times. However, this theme, this idea, is definitely something I think everybody can get behind, right? And so what I hope is not only do they really stick with it. I love the logos and the artwork they've done for everything so far. And I really hope the game is just a slam dunk. I hope it's a lot better than the last space game we've had, right? The throwback to 2009, right? But I'm hoping it's some form of shooting game that involves like, oh, you got to take these parts or these rocks or these things to this other place, and you got to score it, and you want to similar to kind of like what Steamworks was, right? Where you got to score a bunch of things. I think the volume of the shooting game is really cool. But I will admit I do like the theme this year. I think it's really neat. That might be, slightly biased because Tony's been preaching to me about moon stuff since I was in 8th grade, right? And I graduated in 2009. So it might be leaning a little heavy because of that. But overall, I think it'll be a good game. Like the game design committee, like Tony said, they've blown us out of the water the last couple of years. Just these crazy things. I never thought they would do a like points per second type game, but here we are putting yellow blocks in a scale and a switch, right? So, so overall, yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I think going forward, the name of the game, the theme, right, quote unquote, the theme of it, it really fits, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? So.
It is, and it's what I thought was really special is all the themes for the junior FLL, the FLL, the FTC. All the games are this themed, so it's inspiring or it's educating even as young as elementary school to kids who learn something really fast about what we did 50 years ago.
Yep.
So, Bernadette, from a media marketing mentor perspective, are you already brainstorming about certain things you want to do with your videos or stuff like that as far as Deep Space is concerned?
Not yet. I think every year I'm always trying to improve that aspect of our team, especially when it comes to branding and things like that. But I won't look too far ahead into that area. I think to add on a little bit about the game thinking about part was more, I've asked the students all their part and their thoughts on what the game might be, and we're all excited about the theme as well. I think it's really going to be exciting actually to use when you do media for videos and stuff actually. But I think one thing to be thinking about is like the end game. Are they going to make us climb again, or we're going to have something to do with gravity where we have to be on a level?
We're going to launch into space.
Yeah. I think that's something that the kids were having fun with. Well, what's the end game going to be this year? We've had to climb so many years in a row. Are we going to have to do something different this year? So that should be interesting to find out when that happens. But from a media perspective, no, I think there's nothing really to really scope out at the moment. But I think the theme is going to add fun to that for sure.
Well, I as a single mentor myself for now, my team's not a rookie team anymore. I'm already doing thanks. I'm already trying to fundraising is a whole nother story, but trying to get the stock art of moons and the lunar surfaces and all that stuff so that we can put recruiting videos together, talk about what the next game's going to be, that type of thing. So I'm trying to do that now while I have breathing room up until getting all the fundraising and getting everything paid for, and then I know I'm preaching to the choir to any mentor that's listening to this podcast, but first choice lists and blah 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 blah. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know last year that I know now. So
there's a lot of planning that goes in way before build season. A lot, definitely a lot. So getting ahead of that now, kudos to you.
Although we don't know what we're doing as far as a robot, so I can't order any parts yet. I mean, I can order rollers or, tap John's brain of certain things and Tony's brain for certain things that, some teams may want to stock up now. So
yeah, and I'll tell you right now, all day, you need mechanical strategy, all that, come to me. But if you need, how can I make things run extremely smoothly and not feed my kids pizza 3 times a day, you should talk to Bernadette.
Okay, I'll take that as a note.
She will. She's really streamlined the way our teams ran, and it went from Tony coaching us to then me taking over, and we had other coaches beforehand, but those are the dark ages, right? So it really started with Tony really picking us up and saving us, our robotics team, and then passing along to me, and then now me getting all the help from Bernadette. It's like our team wouldn't be at the level it's at without that level of organization. So if you're doing that during off season, that's a great start. For sure.
And it was all because of the moon speech year after year. So
100% of the moon speech.
I feel inspired, Tony. I feel inspired. Everyone should.
Yep, you hear it 6 times and it just straightens you right out. So
I've only heard it twice, so I know I'll hear it once more when at Robo-Con, and I invite everyone to ask Tony about it when he's not doing his FTE duties, of course.
Right.
Yes.
He's good. Busy man.
He'll break out a slide rule and everything for you.
Oh, yeah.
Back in my day. Yeah.
So as each of you guys are individual sign out, please tell us again who you are, first name, last name, the team you're from, what you do on the team, and then how we can follow your team on social media. And Bernadette, we're actually going to go with you first.
All right. I'm Bernadette Stortz. I'm from Team 1684, the Chimeras, assistant coach, and probably the best title will be operations manager of the team. You can follow us on Facebook, First 1684, Instagram and Twitter at Chimeras 1684. And we're also on YouTube, full name.
You can watch John and his what do you call them? Blogs. He had a blog last year.
Those are starting back up soon. So
oh, we're going to be
some
treated
off-season
to something.
vlogs. Yep.
How many times can you get coffee?
Yep.
Anyways, John, please tell us who your position in the team you're from, please.
Yeah, I'm John Urin. I do vlogs. No, I'm just kidding. I'm John Urin. I'm the coach of Team 1684, the Chimeras from Lapeer, Michigan. Yep, our YouTube, Bernadette covered all the other social media. So the YouTube is just the Chimeras FRC 1684. We have some awesome reveal videos and of our robots from past years, and also the vlogs, right? That kind of show what mentors and a team goes through. So.
And finally, Tony, as our veteran, please tell us again who you are, the team you're from, and how we can follow your team.
Yes, Tony Diodato, and with Strike Zone Team 5460. And back in my day, we only had vacuum tubes and slide rules, so I can't tell you how to follow our team any other way. John, do you have?
I would like to interject. His name's Tony Diodato, and you can follow Lapeer Strike Zone on Facebook. Strike Zone 5460 on Twitter, or Team 5460 on Instagram.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yes, but I'm also a mentor. The Chimeras and Strike Zone build across the hall from each other at the Center for Innovation in Lapeer. And, I sort of walk back and forth across that hall many times during build season to help out with mentoring, usually programming, controls, sensors, that sort of thing. And also help with fundraising and community outreach.
And don't forget the lead mentor for information involving the moon landing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll talk to you
next year. You're going to be our subject matter expert.
And then, Pete, can I add one more thing real quick?
Sure.
So one of the big things with Robo-Con is we want to make sure that any team that is just starting or has been starting and is struggling or has any problems like that, like I said, I kind of alluded to Tony picking us up and being a coach and taking our team and keeping us surviving and moving on, right? That's why our number is so low. If there's any teams out there that are struggling or having problems or want some advice, please come to Robo-Con. Grab myself, Bernadette, Tony, any of us. There's a ton of other mentors there that would love to talk to you, try to help you out. And then if not, like you said, we build right across from the hall from each other in that same building. So if there's a different time that's better than afterwards, if you want to come, we really want to make sure that Michigan has quality robots and that people can last for a long time, right? Not just they're involved in first for a couple years and then their team dies off, right? Like, we want to make sure that people have as much help as they need. So if at minimum you need help, please feel free to come out to Robo-Con and we'll try to help you out, or at least schedule a date where you could come back with your team and we could try to interact and, pass some of our knowledge on to you.
All great information, John. Thanks for adding that
Yep.
to the end. I want to thank everyone for coming on the podcast tonight, giving me time. I know you guys are planning Robo-Con and everything's moving fast and crazy. So we will see you in a couple weeks. Did you guys even say what the date of Robo-Con was?
It's Saturday, July 21st from 10 to 4. However, the FRC event will start early in the morning and go till we're done.
Okay.
So that's ongoing along.
Thank you three for coming on the podcast. I will see you in just over a month at Robo-Con.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pete, for all you do.
The RoboZone podcast is brought to you by Kettering University. It's a Kettering-built world.
Again, I'd like to thank the panel, John, Bernadette, and Tony, for coming on the podcast tonight. I was really refreshed to learn from Tony about his unique outlook on experiencing the first landing on the moon. I wish I was there at that time to see it for myself, but it was great to hear from him. And if you ever want to hear about it, he can expand on that discussion as much as you can listen to. So thanks, Tony, for giving that to us. This has been the 63rd episode of the RoboZone podcast. You can find us on Google Music, SoundCloud, and iTunes podcasts. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. Don't forget, Robo-Con's coming up, and I'll be happy to see you there. Maybe I can interview you. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening to the RoboZone podcast with your host, Pete Ekman. Find us online at robozonetv.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.